Welcome to another episode of NeverEndingPanel.com. We have a special guest tonight, Cody Goodfellow, who is a horror and hard science fiction writer, and whose latest book, Perfect Union, has shot to the top of the It's a Bitchin' book charts. Next to Cody is Carl Lemke, who is a Oft-Times expert and Oft-Times audience member. And next to Carl is Eitan Collin, founder, fellow Duberhead, and brother. Tonight's topic is classic horror versus modern horror. We're going to take it on two levels. Have technological advances in film helped or hindered the visceral impact of films?
Hindered.
Can I finish?
Well, we should just get it out there.
I know, but
good night, everybody.
The same goes for lit. Has too much psychological gestalt. I got to explain every friggin' detail. Hurt or hindered the craft. So I open it up to the panelists.
I think hurt. I think horror has always been an outside kind of outlaw genre, pushing at the technological edges of what could be shown on screen, but also the socially acceptable on screen. I think in the 80s, it kind of reached a peak where you were getting kids to go see really transgressive cinema that was really outrageous, and you had a peak of technological know-how with elaborate practical effects. And then CGI, very naturally, once it supplanted that, kind of took away a lot of the visceral appeal. And at the same time, anything is permissible, but studios would rather bankroll something than of 13 and 14-year-olds. And so the transgressive aspect is just a commercial problem. It's not even a sizzling.
Actually, I would take it even at a more simplistic level, and I'll go back to a very old movie, and then a movie that came out 25 years later to just show this examples of how more is way less. When Steven Spielberg was making Jaws, he was going out there and he's creating this masterpiece movie. The damn shark didn't work. That's why for the first hour and 20-some-odd minutes, you don't see the shark. It's not because he was building suspense. It's because they couldn't make the damn thing work until, like, the last 23 minutes of the movie, or the last half hour of the movie. But what this had the effect of was it scared the living crap out of you. And he was brilliant to work with the nothing he had. And he worked with nothing better than he ever could have if he had something. I think that movie wouldn't have been nearly as good if the shark had been working from day one.
By the way, you
got that right, but
you got the facts, I'm pretty sure, wrong. Steven Spielberg was a huge fan of I can't believe I'm blanking out. Psycho.
Right. Hitchcock.
Hitchcock, thank you. Boy, senior moment. And he believed very strongly in not showing the most gory stuff, but showing the after effects of it. And so while they had lots of technical problems with the shark, I don't think that was the reason that happened. He was a really big fan of Hitchcock's directorial technique.
And yet, for a mainstream movie, that was a hella gory film. There's a lot of dismemberment, a lot of limbs floating in the water.
But actually,
stuff like that.
At the beginning, not really. There's a lot of blood, and there's like a limb.
Sure.
But then you can imagine, it's the face.
But it's the fear, and that's what Hitchcock was so brilliant at, was sort of building the fear psychologically. But I'll take the opposite tact against you guys.
Well, then let me give you my other example then, which is very quickly, so we can just get it all out there.
Carl, you want to keep it down? We're trying to talk here.
Oh, sure.
Go ahead, thanks.
Oh, good Lord. The one where he doesn't realize he's dead till the end of the damn movie.
Cool. Two senior moments.
Sixth Sense.
Moments.
Sixth Sense was one of the scariest damn scenes in that movie for me.
I love it that we both forgot.
And I almost never go ahead and go, but one of the things that actually had me flip up and back do a black flip was when a woman walked across a doorway. Sure. That's the only thing that happened. But he built it up so well. It got cold. The thermostat went down. Everyone's breath got cold. And all of a sudden, this woman walks around. Rah! And that's the only thing that happened, but it was freaking brilliant. And that scared me a lot more than chests exploding and thousands of people getting dissolved in acid and blah, blah, blah. Not nearly as scary as just that person walking across. It was that ability to use the nothing and then the common everyday, or one of our favorites, Blink, from Doctor Who. He had me scared to death with frickin' lawn statues. Lawn statues scared me more than just about anything. It was like, there's the lawn statue. Ah! In fact, funny story with my brother, which I'll tell later. Yeah. One of the funniest, scariest moments I ever got, lawn statues. And yet, it was brilliant.
30 seconds or less?
30 seconds less. I waited till just the right moment.
No, wait. I'd never seen Doctor Who. You're going to be a science fiction author. You better know Doctor Who. Eitan said, you got to watch this, or you're going to watch this episode. If there's only one you're going to watch, it's going to be Blink. So he sat me down on a big chair in a friend's house with a 60-inch widescreen TV surround sound.
Lights turned off.
Lights it's nice and dark, and he says, okay, you got to watch this. And at the moment of the scariest moment of the movie, which everybody of the show, which is this moment, Eitan, screamed, blah! Right the second before that scene happened, and I shot straight up to the room. Yeah.
So He
Lawn
probably
furniture.
does that with anything, though. Right?
Lawn
let me,
sculpture.
well,
Makes the weather report very irritating.
right. To drag this back to the topic, or to try, I think the technological advances have really worked against it because, sure, it's a lot cheaper to do a werewolf transformation in CGI than to do it in practical effects. It doesn't. I'm not necessarily talking about explosive gore and things like that. I'm talking about showing you something impossible, something that's
American
really
Werewolf
amazing.
in London versus American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah, well, or
frankly,
the Wolfman, which
or
is
Haunting-
Rick Baker's
Wolfman,
returning to
Haunting of
that.
Hill House versus Haunting of Hill House.
Well, I tend to look. I don't think anybody's going to argue with if you can get somebody psychologically without necessarily having to show it. That usually is better. You're an author, Eitan I author, Carl, you avid reader. So obviously there's a passion about putting the mind someplace and really being affected psychologically. But I would argue that some of the new CGI effects actually enhance the movies. The werewolf changing in CGI, I think, is better than the old way the werewolf changed.
It makes it look painless, though. It makes it look
it looks
rubbery.
pretty. It looks.
No,
I don't know. Some of the
American
stuff
Werewolf
that you
in
see-
London, the thing is you heard the bones crack. You saw this guy, and there was no CGI there at all. You saw the face elongate, and it was just, you were like going,
It's exactly what
not
you're saying
cool.
here. It's the visceral impact, because in science fiction CGI works very well for it because it tends to present grandiose, impossible vistas that we want to see. Horror, it deals in things it has to deal in things that are alternately impossible and things that are very intimate. And, to be able to, it has to feel like a flesh and blood thing in front of us that occupies space. And CGI is so terrible at rendering that as something that's right there. And it's used for really practical things like, well, add more blood splatter after the fact for the director's
We'll
cut.
add the blood in post. Hair.
Hey.
One reason I think that so many horror movies was made for such a low budget is because
They were broke?
knew they could pull it off, where if it was science fiction, you needed the special effects to
Well,
really get the story across better.
Early Doctor Who is horrible.
Yeah.
Special
Yes,
effects.
and I think that's why you got so many incredibly low budget horror movies.
Sure.
Because they knew that.
Well, they knew it was the easiest, cheapest way to get a slot at an all-night drive-in. Or whatever those bookings were, or direct to DVD markets now fill that same sort of void. I think that anything goes in horror, and it's kind of run up against a wall to the point where you have people that watch horror for entirely different reasons from mainstream people. They don't watch it because they're afraid of it. It becomes their comfort food. It becomes the kind of thing for them that they kind of wish would happen. It plays on nihilistic fantasies of seeing society collapse and the world fall apart. It plays on libertarian fantasies of seeing the end of the world and only one guy can enjoy your stuff after you're gone.
All right, well, we've got about 40 seconds left, and since, Carl, you've hogged this panel completely, I'm just going to give you, the last line.
Yeah,
I
might as
think-
well just take the rest of it, man.
Absolutely, and of course, I think the problem with CGI is, first of all, it allows you to take the lazy way out and not really work the viewer's mind. And second, I've been watching Chiller channel for the past week or so, and off and on. CGI just makes it too damn easy, instead of making a horror movie, to make a horrible movie.
Sure.
You just throw enough blood and gore in front of people, you've got yourself a movie. You don't need a plot. You just have plenty of special effects, and you wrap it up in your can, and you send it off to printer, and you put it on the screen, and people will watch it.
Bear Sharktopus, everybody.
And on that, we will end this episode of
If we screwed up in any
NeverEndingPanel.com.
way, please go to below and tell us what we got wrong in the comments.
Thank you very much.